Hey everybody, welcome to this extra video. In this video, we're going to go ahead and do what we did in the previous video, but instead of using Photoshop, we're going to use GIMP. First major difference, we are on unsplash.com here for an image of a cloud that we're going to convert into a brush for our skybox creation purposes. So yeah, the link to this website is available on the Moodle and in the description of the video. Feel free to check this out. Grab any image of a cloud you like. You can use Google to track down an image of a cloud if you want. I'm using Unsplash because it's just more convenient. There's some nice single images of clouds here that are going to work very well for us. I'm going to select this third one. Theoretically, pick any one you want. And download free, pick a nice large size, whether it's large or original size. Make sure that it is pretty big for the purposes of resolution and quality. So I'm going to use large. I already have it downloaded, so I'm just going to go ahead and exit out of this and open up my file explorer to my online cloud image right here that I renamed to online cloud image. And I'm just going to right click, open with. I have GIMP already installed on my computer. If you don't, then you should install it on your computer if you plan on using it. And here we go. Let's go ahead and open it up and see what we're working with here. All right, so first things first, it's asking you if you want to convert. Just say convert, that's fine. And here we go. Welcome to GIMP. GIMP is the open source free equivalent of Photoshop. It is free, but it is less user friendly. Though you can still do you can still do basically all the things that Photoshop can do. It's just less user friendly in how to do them in the first place. So we're using an image of a cloud as opposed to filters, like we did with the Photoshop video, because if we actually go up to filters and render and noise, we have some options here, but we don't have that many, and they're not suited for creating a cloud brush for us. We can also go up to filters and just go down directly to noise. We have some more options here, but again, none of them are really suited for creating a cloud brush. So instead, I'm just going to use an actual image of a cloud and work reverse engineer that into something that's usable as a brush. By the way, here's the actual file that we're working with up here. We can exit out of this if we want. We have no reason to, but it's just, a good thing to keep note of in regards to GIMP. All right, so first thing we're going to do is, instead of digging into all of these various menus, we're actually going to use GIMP's handy-dandy search bar feature. So if we hit the / key in our keyboard, which is right next to Shift, we get this search actions that pops up. And in search actions, I'm actually going to type in desaturate, or start typing it in, because GIMP already knows what I want. So I'm going to double click it. I'm going to say OK, and we're good to go with that. Next thing I want to do, I want to actually search again, this time for levels. And let's see, I'm going to take this left arrow here, and I'm just going to go ahead and push it until we get a nice alpha image where the background is nice and black, and the actual image information that we're going to be working with is all white. So that is what we want. White is what is going to appear, and black is going to be transparent and not going to appear. So this is good. This is what we want. I'm going to say OK. That way, when we paint when we paint with our brush, we're not going to have a big square with an image of a cloud. We're going to have just actually a brush that gives you something that looks like a cloud. Next, I'm going to hit the / again. This time we've searched desaturate, we searched levels. Now it's time for invert. So let's go ahead and type in invert. We don't want this invert selection. We want this first invert, inverting the components. There we go. That's perfect. That's what we want. Next, I'm going to actually go up here to edit, and we're going to go down to copy visible, and we're just going to click it, select it. Next, we're going to go here to our bottom right options. We're going to be using these quite a bit in the next couple of minutes. I'm going to click this one right here, which is create a new layer. I'm going to say OK. Perfect. Now that we have our new layer, we need to paint bucket this new layer so that it is black. There's a couple of ways of doing that. We can literally go up to the paint bucket tool and just do it, the old-fashioned way. There may be, in some cases, if you're working with GIMP, there may be some cases where you don't actually see the paint bucket tool. Just hover over some of the tools, and you can see what tools are being hidden underneath. So this one, for example, has a lot of tools that are hidden underneath. We have this rotate, scale, shear, flip. But in the case of this gradient tool, we can actually right-click and see that we have the bucket fill tool hidden here. We can also just hover our mouse and see that the bucket fill tool is also hidden there. And we can just use the bucket fill tool as we please. We can maybe change the color. Just to show you that's how it works. By the way, you don't actually have to use the bucket fill tool if you don't want to. Once you have a new layer, you can literally just click and drag the box with the color onto the canvas, and it will change to the corresponding color. So in this case, we want black, so we're going to stay with black. All right, next thing we want to do, now that I'm done talking about the paint bucket tool, let's go to the bottom right. We want to go to this little mask here to add a mask. We want to make sure we have clicked here black full transparency and not white full opacity. We wanted this one, black full transparency. I'm going to say add, perfect. Next, I'm going to go to edit paste. So let's go back up to edit, and let's go down to paste, perfect. And next, before I hit this green anchor here to paste down this image, I'm actually going to go ahead and hit the / key again on my keyboard. And I'm going to type in invert again. And now I'm going to double click invert here. Perfect. And now that I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and anchor this, this floating selection in now that it's been properly inverted. So I'm going to hit the green button, anchor that in. Very nice. Now we don't actually need this bottom image anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and just delete it. So we can just, once we have the layer selected, we just go down here to this X to delete this layer. And now that we've done that, we can right-click on the cloud image and layers right here. We're going to apply the layer mask. And then we're going to go up to image here in the top right. Going to go down the mode, similar in Photoshop. And we're going to select grayscaled here. And actually we're done. Those are the steps to create our cloud brush. We're almost done. Now we just have to export this as an actual brush that can be used as opposed to just being a nice weird image here in our GIMP. So now we go up to File. We're going to go down to, let's go down to Export As. And I need to actually save this as a cloud brush.gbr. The problem though is I don't actually know where to export this to, because we can't just export this .gbr file, a GIMP brush file. We can't just export it anywhere we want. It has to go specifically into the built-in brushes folder that GIMP has that GIMP created when it was actually installed in your computer, or else this .gbr file is not going to do anything. So let's actually cancel, because we have to find out where to actually store this properly. And let's go to Edit. Let's go down to Preferences right here. And let's wait a second for that to open up. And let's actually scroll down this left menu here. We see Folders. We hit the plus button. We see Brushes as our first menu. And here we can see where GIMP actually stores its brushes, and where we can store our own original brushes now that we know where this goes. So Users folder, My folder, App Data, Roaming, GIMP 2.10 brushes. I'm going to say OK, because I'm actually going to cancel, because I'm not going to do anything different to this. I just wanted to know where it was. So cancel. Let's go to File. Let's go to Export As again. And once again, I'm going to call this Cloud Brush.gbr. And now we have to track down our folder. So let's go to the Users, My folder. We need to find App Data, which is here, but by the way, it might not show up for you. If it doesn't show up for you, then make sure you just right-click. You just make sure that Show Hidden Files is actually selected here. And then the App Data folder should probably pop up. Ideally should pop up. So let's go ahead and double-click App Data. Let's double-click Roaming. Let's go down to GIMP. Let's go to 2.10. Brushes. I have a couple of tests from previous setup for this video, so let's go ahead and take our cloudbrush.gbr, and I'm going to export. And I'm going to say export again. And that's it. That's the end of part 1. So let's move on to part 2, where we actually use this new brush, and I'm actually going to do that by closing GIMP completely. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open up Unity, because we're going to jump into Unity for a second here. And I'm going to just right-click and completely close GIMP. I don't need to save this brush image, because we already exported it as a brush. So we're just gonna call it and say discard changes. Just get rid of that completely. All right. So back in Unity, I went ahead and actually I have a blank scene here with that Fantasy Skybox free asset from the asset store that I used in the previous video. The link to that is in the previous video. I'm going to go ahead and just right-click on one of these Fantasy Skyboxes here, specifically the PNGs. We have some options here. We have sunrise, snowy, rainy, night moonless. Let's go with this moonless one, I guess. We have other options. Uh, we have plenty of options that we can pick and choose from, but I like that that moonless one. So let's go back to FS003. Let's go to this moonless one here, and I'm just going to export this into a GIMP so I can use this image as a template for an original skybox that I will create myself. So let's go ahead and just right-click this and show in Explorer. And I want the PNG, not the meta, not the mat, the PNG, the actual image information. I'm going to right click just like I did with the online cloud image. I'm going to open with GIMP just like before. I have closed GIMP in between the creation of the cloud brush and getting this skybox in here, because you actually have to close GIMP and reopen in order to refresh your brush selection. That way you can see that here in our brush selection here we have plenty of different kinds of brushes, but the very first one, because of the alphabetical nature of the brushes, is the cloud brush right here, the one that we spent all this time creating in those first few minutes. Let's actually go ahead and just test it out real quick. Let's shrink down the size. There we go. We have a nice, let's actually get rid of the jitter just so we can more clearly see what we're doing here. There's the cloud brush that we spent all this time making, so now we can create some nice original clouds with this brush. So hooray, that's nice. I'm going to undo what I just did. There we go. All right, so we have this image of the skybox. I'm going to go ahead and just create a layer on top of it. Because really the only thing we needed this image of the skybox for is just to have a template for size purposes. Really at this point we can make the skybox whatever we want, whatever colors we want. You know, I'm going to sort of emulate what this image looks like, but you don't have to, right? You can make it look like however you want when you do it. As long as you bring in an original official skybox just for the reference of size, then you know you should be fine making whatever you like. So I went ahead and created a copy layer on top of this one. Now I'm going to create a gradient. There's a couple of ways to do that. We can go back up to the paint bucket tool and understand that the gradient is also in that group, so we can right click and just select gradient from there. We can also / get the search actions and just type in gradient ourselves right here. So that's another way. And now we just need to actually create our gradient. So just click and drag, and you create your own gradient. But obviously we don't want black and white because no sky is black and white, at least no normal sky. So let's go ahead and, for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to try to match the skybox that we have here, but you don't have to. You can create whatever kind of sky you want. There's nothing stopping you for that. So let's see. I'm going to use the color picker, and I'm going to select this sort of nice darkish blue here for the bottom. Actually this lighter blue here for the bottom would be nice. And for the top, I want this darker color up here. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and reselect the gradient tool, and I'm going to go ahead and drag it up to create sort of a recreation of that skybox. But again, these can be any two colors that you want here. But I think this is going to be okay for our purposes. So yeah, that's nice. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard to set this because I'm happy with how that looks. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and go down to my layer here. I'm going to right click it, and I'm going to say new from visible. It's just going to create a copy of this exact layer, so we have a nice top version where we actually color, and you know, whenever we actually erase things, we're not going to get like we'll be able to erase into a nice into a layer that's identical to the one that we're actually working from. And at this point, you can just actually use your cloud brush and work in this top visible layer. So let's see. What color do I want for the brush? Let's make it pure white just for a second. So we have the brush looks okay, but we can probably continue working with it some more. So when working with this, let's go ahead and apply jitter. We also want to play around with this dynamics option here. So let's actually go up to, let's see, Windows, dockable dialogues. I want paint dynamics. And from here, I have this smoke test. Let's open that up here in the mapping matrix for the paint dynamics editor. We have some stuff set here for opacity, size, hardness, and force. Let's try basic dynamics and see what that looks like. So that's more just a basic actual image of the cloud that we worked on. It's actually upside down because the actual angle is off, but there we go. Now it's actually in the right direction. That's pretty good. But let's go ahead and let's try the smoke test again, because I do want something a little bit random with the cloud, because just painting on images of the cloud is going to be very boring and lead to a very stale looking image. But in smoke test, maybe we can play around with maybe the hardness doesn't need to be random. Let's try this. Oh, that's pretty good. It's not too bad. We can get some interesting fluffy clouds from that. Let's see, what else do I want to do? Spacing. What's spacing going to do for me? This might work out too, having the spacing be random. Let's see, the jitter. Jitter is good because I want randomness. Flow. Flow might work out well too to be random. Rate. Rate is fine too to keep random. Aspect ratio. Actually, no, I don't want to play around with the aspect ratio. I like the aspect ratio the way it is. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go back out. We have plenty of paint dynamics to pick and choose from. I'm going to stick with the smoke test, but you can pick whatever you want. And if you want to create your own from scratch, then you just go down here to create a new dynamics and just play around with these with this mapping dynamic, with this mapping matrix to your to whatever works out well for you. But in this case, I'm very happy with how that smoke test looks. So I'm going to delete this untitled one that I just created, and I'm going to work with this smoke test one. And let's see, what else do I want to do? Maybe I want to work with a darker color cloud. Maybe I want to create something kind of whimsical and weird. It's supposed to be night, so sort of a darkish like that, maybe? That's interesting. Oh, look at that. That's pretty interesting. That's an interesting little effect there. Okay. And in between the paintbrush, I'm also going to be using the eraser tool. Let's actually go back up to the top left here. I can switch from the paint dynamics over back to brushes and actually change from the cloud brush to maybe just a standard hardness brush here, and just sort of erase a little bit of what I have here. Let's see. Maybe I don't want the jitter for this hardness brush. Do a little work erasing from there to create sort of a more natural cloud shape instead of that blob that I just colored in. There we go. That's starting to become something interesting there. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I can use the original image as sort of a guide for what kind of clouds I should be making. Okay. And in fact, let's use the color picker tool and sort of just pick out a nice cloud color here to work with. And go back over here to the visible layer and start working. There we go. That's nice. But I don't want to use the hardness brush. I want to use my cloud brush. Get the size back down. Start working on something there. Use the eraser tool. Regular hardness. Let's start getting rid of some stuff there. There we go. Now we're starting to get something that's a little bit more interesting looking with that darkness in the back and that lightness in the front. All right, let's keep working on this. Okay, I went ahead and gave myself about 10 minutes. This is what I came up with in those 10 minutes. Using a combination of cloud brush, hardness brushes, this little pixel brush here to create the little illusion of stars, using a combination of the smoke test paint dynamics as well as basic paint dynamics, I created this basic little skybox. Now that it's ready, I mean, at this point I can just get rid of the original layer that I imported in because I don't need that anymore. Next, I can just, let's see, what would I like to do next? I can right click on my layers and I can flatten the image so I can put it all together as one image. And then I can export as a PNG. So File, Export As. I can export it directly into Unity, but I would rather import it into Unity myself. So I'm just going to go ahead and go to Desktop and call this my second skybox. Make sure it's saved as a PNG. Then I'm going to export. I'm just going to leave these as a default and just export this and be done. Give that a second for the exporting process to go through. Give that a second, and there we go. At this point, I can go ahead and import it into Unity and actually apply it as a skybox as I did in the previous video. I'm not going to show that part since the point of this video was to show off the capabilities of GIMP. It is an open source version of Photoshop, so this is free to use. It is a little less user-friendly, that is true, but if you get past that, this is a powerful, and free tool that you have at your disposal whenever you want for things like creating your own skyboxes or creating your own textures if you were taking a class similar to the Photoshop class that the school offers. So, you know, keep it in mind, GIMP is the open source version of Photoshop. That's all I really had to show you in this video. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.